everybody. Joe Moore here. Hope you're doing great. Beautiful Monday. And today I'm here to chat with you all about the upcoming Navigating Psychedelics program that we've been teaching for ages now. Believe we've been teaching it since maybe late 2017 or mid even. So we developed this program, which is very much evolved from here. And I want to make this interactive, everybody. So feel free to throw in some chats, and I'll try to interact with everybody. We created it because when we were in our undergrads, could have used some guidance and could have used a little bit of input from mentors and elders about how best to approach these substances, materials, and spiritual progress, all that kind of stuff that we were thinking about when we were undergrads. And people can get really kind of trapped, in psychedelics as undergrads, and even as older adults. There's a lot of stuff that can get really confusing, especially if you're using kind of often. So we made a class to really just encounter that head on for college kids. All of a sudden, doctors and therapists were showing up, and we loved that. But I was frankly a little embarrassed about the material that we were presenting to doctors. So we started to develop. Roscoe, what's happening? Great to see you. We really wanted to make sure our material is really appropriate for physicians, appropriate for therapists, psychologists, people in the mix. And I think we made that. I think we made that program by finding people in the space who could speak really carefully about clinical applications of some aspects of this that were legal. And say for example, somebody comes to their doctor and says, "Is ayahuasca right to me?" Like, kind of a joke, kind of not. Like, this must happen a lot to physicians. How do they kind of handle those requests sensitively, appropriately? Things like that are really, really open questions. And say they're going to do some ketamine. Like, there wasn't really in 2017 much online training available around these drugs. So we decided to add all sorts of material from people practicing in the above ground and underground, and eventually came up with this 9-week live supported curriculum that runs 47 hours. So people will come to these 1.5-hour classes weekly until the final class, which is 2 hours. And we work through material that people have been studying in the pre-recorded segments. So there's room for questions and answers. The idea is to give people a little bit of foundational material and direction so they can explore the space. It's not necessarily the case that everybody should be a facilitator. It's like, in fact, definitely not the case. But there's a lot of room for people to be working in this field, even if they don't want to be a facilitator. And so that's kind of what we did there with Navigating Psychedelics. We worked through so much interesting material that I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish there. It's just CE approved. We've educated probably thousands of people with that program by now, and whenever Kyle and I would teach it live, it was definitely a highlight of my week. Just doing that kind of direct time with students to answer questions, to help satiate curiosity. But here's some of the topics that we run through. Psychedelic history, the science-based theory and current data, harm reduction techniques and tools, clinical applications for psychedelics, often very speculative, though there are people using in real licensed clinics mushrooms now, with therapists and the works. That's a little complex of a story, so I won't get into that now. But that's something that is happening. Cannabis is being used, ketamine is being used clinically for cannabis for psychiatric stuff. So in a similar way to how psychedelics would be used. So there's a lot there. We also cover space holding skills, legal considerations. So we don't want anybody getting in trouble here. We want people to stay as safe legally as possible. So we talk often about how to stay safe. We even have attorneys regularly come in and talk on the show, and also teach here and there. So very important to stay legally um, handle it. And then insights from experienced professionals already working with it, like I was saying earlier. Just got a question here. Can cannabis dissolve the ego like mushrooms? I really have a lot of problems with the phrasing of things like does it dissolve the ego? I find that um, mitigates a little bit what's potentially actually happening, in which it gives um, the awareness access to material that might be suppressed, which could be all sorts of strange visions. It could be memories from the past. There's a lot there. Dissolving the ego. Uh, Groff had a line once about your persona slipping away more so, like the persona as ego. Like I can vibe with that, like because there's always some sort of sense of ego in my opinion, even in these like super blown out states. Maybe for some not the case, but I don't know. It's definitely a contested thing in my opinion. Generally, yeah. I think we need better languaging around that. Another question here. What is the best way you recommend to get into internship opportunities in this field, to get hands-on experience as a new grad student? So depends on what you graduated with as a grad student. If you have a clinical degree, should be relatively easy to find roles at ketamine centers, or helping ayahuasca centers or something like that. Like there's definitely some room there. Reaching out to organizations, asking if they're accepting interns, like that would be one way. Also being educated specifically in this topic is really helpful. We've definitely had people graduate our program and get jobs, both navigating psychedelics and vital, which has been really good. I guess there's a bit of confusion around navigating psychedelics. We always had the name a little off, but I'll explain why. So we used to call it Navigating Psychedelics for therapists and clinicians, I think, and now we're calling it Navigating Psychedelics for clinicians and wellness practitioners. Really, what we've wanted is a very inclusive, highly inclusive program where clinicians are taking the program, and also average folks are taking the program right alongside with them. I find that there's a certain level of magic there when they are able to interact. And I find that really important. So I think getting all sorts of training for everybody is radically important. Like we need people in politics to take this training. We need um, even health insurance administrators to understand this stuff a little bit better. And hopefully we can get better inclusion once we have everybody in the mix. And I really hope um, that more and more people will be educated. They can share with their friends. Like, you're out for dinner with other friends who don't know, and you actually can say, oh yeah, I just took this amazing program and here's what we learned. What I think we need is people to be willing to have these conversations, and also have the knowledge to share at these conversations. And that's how we really move the needle. Like, I don't think everybody necessarily needs a job in psychedelia. In fact, I think it's a little goofy, but like if you're really, really called, there's a lot of room. Um, there's definitely a lot of room in the space for people to be working in here, and it could be everywhere from graphic designers to accountants to lawyers to honestly even dentists. Like there could probably be some novel um, novel applications in dentistry around this stuff, given how nervy this mouth zone is. What else? Um, yeah, and for instance, I have tons of dental trauma from my youth, so I think there's definitely room there. Um, and yeah, who else? There's Bruce Damer. I'm really excited about his new project. I've been talking about this for ages, but creative problem solving via psychedelic experiences. I think that's super important and really valuable. So there's so many applications here, and integration specialists, prep specialists, even just having the regular administrative staff at a retreat center being well trained. Like I think that goes further into better clinical results for ayahuasca, mushrooms, even ketamine clinics for that matter. Yeah. Thank you everybody for the kind words. It's really, really nice to see. And the questioner earlier is clarifying undergrad. Yeah. Just reach out to a lot of places. If you want to get an internship, email us, email other folks. And I'm pretty sure most places would love to have an intern. I know we would, we don't think we have a program for that yet, but we're, if you're a great candidate, maybe. And there's other questions here. I think ego means two different things depending on Eastern versus Western medicine. I'm sure. Yeah. The term ego is just so complicated for me. As I always go back to Freud, and it's kind of helpful, but kind of not. But yeah, like the persona, like your false personas fall off, and then your more accurate self is being shown. Sometimes in psychedelics, like a more accurate representation of who you are can be experienced there sometimes. Sometimes you can be deluded too. So there's a lot of education and discernment that needs to go in there. Your dentist is into psychedelics. One of my friends actually used to buy all their drugs from dentists, which is fascinating. Yeah. So any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Just throw them over. I'm going to try to run through some more stuff here. So our next round of Navigating Psychedelics starts May 8. There's a second cohort you could join. It starts on May 9. It runs for 9 weeks in both cases. And you don't need to make every meeting. It's preferable. You'll get more out of it if you do. But we're okay. Like, we understand people have lives and you can't be to every make it to every class. I think that's really important. This stuff is CE approved, which is really important. Nurses, therapists, psychologists, I believe, can use these credits. I believe some physicians can use non-CME credits towards their license if they're CE. It's a certain proportion, I think, based on who the individual is and their background. Yeah, let's keep going here. So the two lead facilitators here, Jasmine Verdi, who's amazing. If you don't know her, you have to check out her work. And then Psychedelics Today team member from Australia, Diego Pinzon, who's got a master's in transpersonal psychology, which is something that we love here. You'll also have contributions from Kyle Buller, David Drapkin, Courtney Barnes, an attorney, friend of ours, Ido Cohen, a Jungian psychologist, Emma Knighton, Juliana Mulligan, and Victor Cabral, though these might change, but that's what we're looking at right now. You'll also get copies of our books, which is really, really important. And I think that's it for now on like details. If you can't make it, there's also right. There's also a pre-recorded version if you can't make the live ones, but there's a lot of value in the live sessions. There's a comment here about CE credits for massage therapy. And yeah, I would agree. I think that's super important. And I think, yeah, I think there's a lot going on there. So, all right, I think that's it for now, unless anybody has any other questions. I'm happy to answer and hang out for a minute, but I just wanted to do a little bit of discussion on that. And yeah, there was reference in Dr. Opinion on Cannabis with psilocybin. I don't see a reason not to necessarily. It depends on what somebody's comfortable with and what their body is. I wouldn't want to push somebody over the line with that kind of thing. I know for some people, cannabis is really extreme. What classes are we talking about? We're talking about Navigating Psychedelics for clinicians and wellness practitioners. That's a good one to check out. And there's also Vital that we offer. There's some free trainings we offer. You can learn more at psychedeliceducationcenter.com. Let's see, when MDMA is approved this August, we hope, and then reclassified beginning of next year, we hope. Reclassified meaning like a schedule change at the DEA level, so the federal penalties will be lesser. For patients with PTSD, do you know how many clinics will be able to use it? No, I don't know how many clinics will be able to use it. It's a kind of a complex situation there with MAPS is going to have to approve clinics, and then then they'll have to hire approved therapists. So there will be a sort of a therapist bottleneck when these clinics are opening. So um, yeah, it's really hard to say. Somebody else is asking here, besides the live sessions, how much other work is required, recommended for the 9-week course? Nothing. Like there's a final project at the end, and it could be as simple as stick figures if you wanted, or people have made whole business plans and presented it and shared it with their team. This is actually something I forgot to share. One of the best parts here is actually getting people um, connected to each other. And I find that endlessly valuable. I think there's a lot of benefit for people finally having a connection with other people really curious about the space. And I think um, there's, let's see, like really, honestly, endless reasons to have community. Alienation is kind of the origins of a lot of our suffering in this world today, and building community, kind of tackling a lot of these problems together, like all that stuff's really great. Yeah, mycelium network, exactly, exactly. Um, and yeah, well, I think that's it for now. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm hoping to do more, and let us know what you want to hear about. Shoot us an email, info@psychedelicstoday.com. And I hope that you all have a beautiful rest of your day. And yeah, take care. Bye-bye, everybody. And yeah, Navigating Psychedelics, May 8, 9, psychedeliceducationcenter.com to learn more. You can also get there, psychedelicstoday.com. Thanks, everybody.